It's the final Wednesday of a month that reminds us of the strength of many of our Jamaicans, those involved in the walk to freedom, or even those who fought and fight for our country to be the place of choice. Hi, I'm Theodore Henry, and welcome to your Jamaica Magazine. As we close off the month, today we'll share with you some more Jamaicans continuing the fight for a better life. There are also those pushing forward on a sustainable path to a new Jamaica. All that and more unfolding inside this edition of Jamaica Magazine.
Let's get a little breeze on this land. All right. Now let's get some bounce in the rhythm. All right. Let's get some fire on our hearts. Now that is what we call all right. Run, come, get some Jamaica.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Wednesday, August 28. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has inspected and/or fogged 552 schools in anticipation of the start of the new academic year.
That process is ongoing and will continue through the first few weeks of school to ensure that our children are protected in that environment.
The Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, was addressing his ministry's quarterly press briefing on Tuesday. The ongoing exercise is part of the ministry's efforts to contain the regional outbreak of dengue. Data from the ministry reveal that there have been 5,200 suspected, presumed, or confirmed cases of dengue, with over 4,000 cases having onset dates in 2019. Dr. Tufton says the ministry's sustained mosquito control program continues. A $130 million program involving the National Solid Waste Management Authority and the parish municipal corporations is operational. The Ministry of Health and Wellness has meanwhile increased its use of the Public Health Act to issue citations to persons who facilitate mosquito breeding sites around their homes. And 1,200 temporary and permanent vector aids have been deployed across the island, with particular focus on high-risk communities.
I'm going to ask the public to invite and support these persons when they visit their communities. They should be readily identified with IDs, with a vest that says who they are, very visible, and we need them to be out there to support the efforts of the public.
In the meantime, Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson says plans are being put in place to keep traffic flowing smoothly for the start of the new school year. The Commissioner gave the update at the first meeting of the Cabinet after the summer recess on Monday. Cabinet members also discussed the importance of equal and consistent enforcement of the road traffic laws following a highly publicized stunt driving incident. They expressed concerns about public confidence in the system of law enforcement, as well as the maintenance of public order and discipline on the roads. The Cabinet reminded the Jamaica Constabulary Force of the critical importance of enforcing the traffic laws in the context of the government's zero-tolerance policy. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he will be having a similar meeting with the National Works Agency. That meeting will discuss any coordination that may be required for the effective and efficient flow of traffic on roads where construction works are underway. Still on the roads, Prime Minister Andrew Holness has confirmed that he has no plans to close down the National Works Agency, NWA. Following a news item which said there would be major changes in the structure of the NWA, Prime Minister Holness sought to clarify that report. He said the NWA had been instructed to improve its service delivery to meet the increasing number of road infrastructure projects that are underway or will be started shortly. That means the Works Agency will have to step up its supervision of contractors who are hired to carry out road construction works across the island.
We can't close down the NWA, but we can change how the NWA operates. And I'm going to spend quite a bit of my time in ensuring that, especially with this new project heading towards the east, that it is done properly.
Prime Minister Holness was speaking Monday as he signed a contract for Phase 1 of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project targeting eastern Jamaica. The works, to cost $195 million will cover roads between Harborview in St. Andrew to Port Antonio in Portland. Starting today, the Bank of Jamaica has reduced its policy interest rate on deposit-taking institutions' overnight placements by 25 basis points to 0.5%. The central bank says the move is intended to stimulate faster expansion in private sector credit, which is expected to spur higher economic activity consistent with the inflation target. The Bank of Jamaica says the decision reflects its assessment that inflation is projected to average 4.3% over the next 8 quarters. While this is within the 4 to 6% target range, without the intervention, inflation is likely to fall below the target's lower limit at various points over the period. In a statement Tuesday, the BOJ said that over the medium term, the forecast was for inflation to gradually approach the midpoint of the target, albeit at a slower pace than previously expected. The bank also asserts that the inflation forecast is mainly predicted on the continued impact of low domestic demand conditions relative to the economy's capacity, slower growth among Jamaica's main trading partners, and a decline in international commodity prices. The impact on electricity rates from imminent changes in the fuel mix in the domestic energy sector is also factored into the BOJ's decision. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Here's a common occurrence in far too many Jamaican homes: teenage pregnancy. And here's just one part of government's response to those who face the challenges of teenage pregnancy.
At the age of 14 years old, I found out that I was pregnant. It was a very devastating experience.
I didn't have anyone. Everyone was just looking down at me. And I really thought that it was the end, you know?
Just like these two, teenage pregnancy often seems to signal a daunting battle for many girls in Jamaica. But that frightening vision is becoming less and less of a reality, thanks to the efforts of the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation.
I applaud your selfless service. What started off 40 years ago as a response to the high level of teenage pregnancies has become a national program with 10 different centers offering quality education.
That applause from the wife of the President of Kenya, the Honorable Margaret Kenyatta, came in early August on an official visit to Jamaica. Under the banner of the Ministry of Gender, the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation has served approximately 46,000 adolescent mothers in 4 critical areas: academics, which includes education and skills training; outreach for those who cannot access the main centers; adolescent mother health, where they provide health services for beneficiaries; and counseling on family life education. But that's not all.
The Women's Center program for teenage mothers began with 6 clients right here. And in 40 years, the program has served more than 46,000 adolescent mothers and has expanded to include 7 main centers and 11 outreach stations across the island.
I am Kinshasa Johnson, and I'm a past student of the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation. At the age of 14 years old, I found out that I was pregnant. It was a very devastating experience at that very moment. I had to come to terms with the fact that I was not only a child anymore, but I was going to become a parent. Now, at that very moment, I signed up to become a student at the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation. I started attending the center when I was 14 years old, and at that time they had a bus fare program here, so young ladies who weren't financially able to find money to come to school every day, we would be granted a bus fare to come to school the following morning. So I had my baby and I was home for approximately a month, and I came back to school because I had the grade 9 achievement test. Now, hearing that I passed for a traditional high school was a bittersweet moment because I didn't have it financially, so even though I was very close to my dream, it seemed very much far. And it was at that very moment that the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation decided to assist me financially to go back to school. The center opened many, many doors for me, and one of those doors was to be a child delegate at the it was the Child Development Agency at that time. It's now the Child Family and Protection Services. And I was a child delegate where we assisted the CEO and the executive management team by telling them about matters that affect children. And it was there that I started working as a summer worker. And so I say this to say that we were young, and I don't view it as a mistake. It's a part of our journey, and it is a part of our lesson, because today I can say that I have become a totally different person because of my son, because I know that I have to pave a path for him that is clearer than the one that I had, and I have to assist him in every way possible. And I could not have done that without the help of the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation.
I couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, and it was just so devastating. And I was just 15, and I'm saying to myself, how am I going to maintain myself? How am I going to maintain a baby? So when I got here, I met some really amazing people who inspired me so much. At that point, I didn't want to hurt myself anymore, and for the first time in a long while, I started to smile. And I went home and I started writing in my journal, and I said to myself, I can make it. I'm gonna make it out of this.
So let me congratulate all you girls for your unyielding resilience and courage, for taking on the responsibilities of being young mothers, yet recognizing the importance of education in unlocking your future, for refusing to be left behind.
40 years ago, teenage pregnancy meant a dead end for many young girls. It was the guarantee of a future of misery, a life of poverty, exclusion, and dependence. The pregnant teenager's education would come to an end, and her job prospects would disappear. That was before the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation was established.
Jamaica Social Investment Fund, JSIF, celebrating over 20 years of investment in community development. JSIF has forged relationships with international funding partners as well as private and public sector entities. Let us continue to invest to reduce vulnerabilities. Let us build our social capital and resilient infrastructures to ensure full participation in Vision 2030. JSIF, investing for community development.
Even at the government level, the push for a better Jamaica is very much evident. With that, let's see the plans and programs of the Investment and Environment sections in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation for 2019-2020.
The Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation in financial year 2019-2020 has unveiled an ambitious plan to create a new Jamaica. That means removing all impediments to growth, whether environmental or man-made. Here are some of those plans from Minister without Portfolio, Darrell Vaz.
The Climate Change Division of my ministry has been proactive in ensuring that we take the necessary and concrete steps to make the island climate resilient.
A drought alleviation plan is being prepared for Cabinet. $613,000 has been drawn down from the Green Climate Fund for forest management. 65,000 gallons of water storage capacity is being provided to farmers, and a $6 million project to reduce land degradation in the cockpit country is underway.
It is our intention to place greater focus on pollution control in the financial year.
In addition to 2019's ban on certain categories of plastics and styrofoam containers, a deposit refund scheme for plastic drinking bottles will be fully rolled out by February 2020. An agreement was also reached with Carib Cement to undertake a pilot project to remove tires from the Riverton City landfill.
We are creating a sustainable path for a new Jamaica.
To ensure that the necessary legislation is in place to protect the environment, the Ministry secured Cabinet's approval of the National Policy on Environmental Management Systems. A draft beach access and management policy is also being prepared. And amendments are being made to the Forest Act, the Natural Resources Conservation Authority Act, Endangered Species Act, and the Wildlife Protection Act.
The Ministry will be undertaking public consultations on the National Hazardous Waste Management Policy Green Paper, and I would like to invite the public to attend and actively participate in those consultations. Land use planning and management are very important for the country to achieve its long-term economic, environmental, and social goals.
A construction industry policy has been developed to encourage the use of environmentally friendly resources while limiting environmental impact. The revised rainwater harvesting planning policy guideline has been completed. This will be issued to local planning authorities as a condition of approval for all new commercial and residential buildings.
No one is more pleased than I am that the idea of promoting sustainable and green building concepts have taken a front line in the real estate industry.
Work continues apace to utilize electronic titling to reduce processing times for documents. That will be strengthened with the draft electronic titling bill to be finalized by year's end.
We are working to issue 4,000 titles between April 1st, 2019 and March 31st, 2020, subject to the passing of the legislative amendments to introduce systemic titling.
The National Land Agency will also benefit from a transformation of its business processes through the development of the e-land titling platform. Jamaica's National Spatial Planning Framework is to be completed by December. The entire island is now covered by development orders. A review of population densities and heights in urban areas is being undertaken. And an Negril master plan is being prepared in partnership with the National Environment and Planning Agency, NEPA.
The vision would enable a part of Negril to compete with other jurisdictions in the area, other destinations in the area, in the region, while better managing the national resources of the area.
The National Water Commission is also working on 4 projects in the area to resolve water-related development challenges.
Jamaica's objective is to be a jurisdiction that offers high-value business services to support local and international business.
The National Competitive Council has removed 16 export licenses for several items, including pimento and bauxite, significantly reducing time and cost of exporting the items.
By the end of this calendar year, we will implement the Port Community System, Truck Appointment System, Exports, and Airport.
This will reduce the number of days required to move cargo and other items from the ports. Meanwhile, the electronic business registration form, which took effect in August, makes it possible to reserve and register a company name online within a day.
Upon the revision of the Companies Act, the Companies Office will also have revised the archaic naming rules so that only the use of identical names will be the basis for rejection of a proposed company.
The pilot single electronic window platform will be rolled out soon and made available to clients, starting with the Trade Board Limited.
Targeting the motor vehicles in particular, companies will be able to submit their application online and use the web-based platform to track the progress.
The Special Economic Zone Authority is in the final phase of receiving and reviewing transition applications for regularizing free zones. On the investment side of things, the bidding process for the Caymanas Special Economic Zone is to be launched shortly. Ground is to be broken next year for the integrated Hard Rock Casino, Hard Rock Hotel and Unico Hotel along the Elegant Corridor in St. James. A $14 million maritime-based industrial zone dubbed the Kingston Logistics Parks is in the works. Ground is to break on the $75 million Nago Head Tech Park. Preparatory works continue apace on the $1.7 billion Vernon Field Aerotropolis project, and private investment is being sought for the development of the Jamaica Solid Waste Management Public-Private Partnership transaction. In all, $1.7 billion has been pumped into the economy over 2009 to 2019. And more funds are expected to be garnered with the planned divestment of the Jamaica Mortgage Bank and government shares in the Jamaica Public Service Company. Projects are also being undertaken at the Rio Cobre Water Treatment Plant and the National Education Trust.
For this fiscal year, DBJ is projecting a total loan value of $6.7 billion, with total investments projected to be $13.48 billion.
Micro, small and medium-sized enterprises have also benefited from the Development Bank of Jamaica's capacity building programs. The agency has been creating new initiatives to support the sector.
We are again creating a sustainable path for the new Jamaica.
Now here's another initiative by our government to help our citizens. This time is the drive to end gender-based violence. Take a look.
It is no secret. Jamaica experiences reports of domestic violence.
Sometimes him beat me in front of the picnic them.
There is no excuse for abuse, and the government has implemented a plan with the hope of beating domestic violence out of the country. The data on gender-based violence says much. In Jamaica, 1 in every 4 women is abused. Globally, 1 in every 3 women is a victim. Coupled with that, domestic violence has no regard for age or status. Men are also victims, so too girls as young as age 15, who are being physically, sexually, and emotionally abused in intimate partner relationships. With year-on occurrences of all forms of gender-based violence, the government has been courting several plans to eliminate the act. Finally, a perfect relationship has been formed and has given birth to a 10-year plan for ending this cowardly act. The National Strategic Action Plan to Eliminate Gender-Based Violence in Jamaica, NSAP-GBV for short.
The period is 2017 to 2027, 2017 to 2027. And that plan is predicated on the due diligence framework, which allows us to have 5 strategic priority areas. The first one is prevention. How do we engage key stakeholders so that they become a part of the solution and not a part of the problem?
A major component of the prevention strategic area is the implementation of a No Excuse for Abuse social media-driven campaign.
We are very fortunate to have been blessed with a 3-year MOU through our partner, UN Women, that will allow us to do a 6-month campaign. We think that this campaign should make a huge difference, and we plan to have it rolled out in a very robust manner across communities and engaging different players at different times. The second strategic priority area is protection. That looks at how do we ensure that once the person becomes a victim, there is the adequate provision for shelter, there is provision for psychosocial support and rehabilitation. How do we look at the perpetrator as well?
The third priority strategic area covers the investigation, prosecution and enforcement of court orders.
So once a person has been a victim, becomes a victim, what sort of mechanisms are in place to ensure that the victim gets redress and gets compensation if that is what is required? And if there is a protection order that is required, how do we ensure that the protection order is taken out and that it is enforced? And if there is an issue with compliance, which happens in some cases, where the perpetrator decides to violate the protection order, how do we ensure that it is enforced? And how do we ensure that the victim has protection? The fourth strategic priority area looks at compensation, reparation, and redress. How do we ensure that victims and survivors have adequate compensation for redress for wrongs that have been done? And how do we compensate? What forms of redress are appropriate? What is affordable given our limited fiscal space? The fifth and final strategic priority area is data collection and the systems by which we have a management of data. Gone are the days where persons talk from their heads about gender-based violence, because we now have a survey findings, a set of survey findings that's put together in a report. It's called the Women's Health Survey, and that survey for us is very important.
Released in 2017, the Women's Health Survey was conducted by the Inter-American Development Bank, UN Women, and the Statistical Institute of Jamaica. It provides facts, not anecdotal information about the violence some persons face. Eliminating gender-based violence will not be a band-aid fix. With the help of local and international partners, government has crafted a research-driven program to involve major stakeholders. The goal is simple yet revolutionary: to bring an end once and for all to the scourge that has crippled families and impacted our country psychologically and financially.
We did mention that the curtains are coming to a close for the month of August, but just before it ends, here's a reminder of some important events that took place in Jamaica's history in August. Number 1. On August 1, 1834, we celebrated freedom from slavery in British colonies, mostly due to the tenacity of ancestors who demanded and fought for their freedom. Number 2. Jamaica became independent of Britain on August 6, 1962. Number 3. The bill for the abolition of slavery in the British colonies received the royal assent on August 28, 1833. Number 4. On August 6, 1977, Sir Alexander Bustamante died. He was the last surviving national hero of Jamaica. And our fifth and final point, Jamaica officially became a member of the Caribbean Free Trade Association, otherwise known as CARIFTA, on August 1, 1968. CARIFTA was later changed to CARICOM. So we see ordinary Jamaicans have always been fighting for a better tomorrow. And we're encouraging you to do whatever you can to make this island the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. And this is where your journey with us in today's Jamaica Magazine ends. But if you want a refresher of today's happenings, visit our website, that's jis.gov.jm, and be sure to keep up with the JIS team on our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter pages. On behalf of the entire team, I am Theodore Henry. Do take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.